Okay, well, good evening and welcome to everybody. Thank you for taking time out this evening to come and visit us. This is stop number 3 on the Windows User Group Tour, which is London today in the Microsoft Cardinal Place building. So thank you all for coming. We'll go through the introductions in just one sec. Thanks, we have that now. So you can learn a bit about who we are. My name is Chris Rhodes. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer by day. And what else do I do? I'm a member of the STEP program, which is Springboard Technical Expert Panel member. So I don't know if anyone uses Microsoft Springboard website. I do talks and stuff like that. And I also do training through IT Masterclasses. So come and get my business card at break time, I'll tell you more about that. I'm joined here by my 2 fellow Windows MVPs, Mike Halsey and Andrew Bentley. Mike, do you want to...
Hi, I'm Mike Halsey. I'm the author of several Windows books. We've got some to give away tonight, actually. And an MVP since 2011, and I haven't got any business cards because I've recently flown back from Microsoft's headquarters in Seattle, and I had to get rid of all the business cards, otherwise I would have gone over my luggage allowance.
Thanks, Mike. My name's Andrew Bentley, and I'm from York. I manage the IT Academy there on a part-time basis, and in my spare time I also teach IT Masterclasses. We teach things like PowerShell and deployment and really cool things in maybe 1, maybe 2 days. Depends. Really powerful, short, sharp hitting classes. I'm also an MVP. I've co-authored a book with this fine chap, which was a great experience. I recommend it to anybody. And together
it works with everybody.
And together we've set up this user group. We set it up originally in the Yorkshire area. Microsoft has asked us to take it nationwide, so we've rebranded it into the Windows User Group. And we're down here, and we want to come back, so we want to really enjoy it. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, VIPs, and we'll put a round of applause for you guys.
Yeah,
Let me start by asking, how many of you are already using Windows 8.1? Quite a few of you.
Wow, okay, most.
More than enough.
Anybody still on Windows 7? Most of you again. Anybody dual booting?
Anybody what?
Dual booting? Some of you.
Okay.
Vista?
And, Vista? XP? People still on, some people still on XP. Anyone on a Mac? There's the door.
Okay. So XP people, are you aware of what's happening next year?
14 April.
Yeah, April the...
April 14th.
8th?
Who's using Windows 8 but not 8.1? Who's using Windows 8 but not 8.1?
Both. I'm using one.
Yeah?
Both, okay. Both 8.0 and 8.1? Yeah, okay.
Very good.
Alright, okay, so now we know a bit about you guys and what you're using. So yes, as Andrew was mentioning before, do engage with us. We like doing this kind of thing as well, but do meet up with us online. We have various different online presences depending on your preference. So you can find us on Twitter, at WindowsUG, on Facebook, /WindowsUG, and so on. And we've got a website also, LinkedIn. So do engage with us, keep the conversation going. We love coming here, but we want to take this forward as well with you guys and engage with you longer term. So do tell us what you think and share it with your friends as well. But
If you want to tweet tonight, we have a hashtag.
Have you got mine yet?
we've got a hashtag. We've got 2 hashtags. One for the toilets, the one more important for us. Okay. I'd rather you use the right one as well. Okay. Also, a quick thanks to our sponsors. We have to say thank you to Microsoft for putting us on here tonight and putting on the sandwiches and the drinks, so we will say thank you to them. And also we're supported by the IT Masterclasses as well, who are supporting us on tour throughout the week. Okay, so what we're going to talk about really mostly for at least the first half of the evening is what's new and cool, because that's what excites us most as IT pros, and we wanted to share some of that stuff with you about what's new, what's exciting, what's different, some things you might not be aware of what's new and exciting in Windows 8.1, some in 8.0 as well, but mostly what's new in 8.1. Okay, so who wants to start?
And we'll also touch on Microsoft Office.
Oh yeah, so later on we'll also go, yes, of course, in the second half we'll also discuss Office, so be thinking ahead for any questions on Office 365 that you want to ask us as well. And we'll try and keep more of the Q&A towards the back end if that's possible, please.
Let's start with mobile tethering. How many people work out and about, are mobile workers, perhaps working more than one place, maybe work from home, work in other offices? And
That's the fire alarm.
that's the fire alarm.
Are we going to check?
Yeah, I'm going to check.
This isn't good.
Well, there you go.
Oh, it's stopped.
It's just saying, it's just waking up the people today. That's all it's for. So, one of the difficulties with computers in general is the support for internet when you're out and about, when you're out on the move. If you're in a meeting, and say you're meeting with people in a cafe or a coffee shop, then having internet access can be patchy and sporadic. You can pay for mobile tethering on your mobile phone, but not all the mobile operators support it. But now this mobile tethering is built into Windows 8.1. So if you have a Windows tablet or laptop or Ultrabook that has a SIM card in it, SIM card slot, you can now set up your own Wi-Fi hotspot. You don't need one of these Wi-Fi dongle boxes anymore. You can set this up entirely on your own. It's less to carry around with you and much more convenient. So,
Yeah, also on the mobile side, something that came up a couple of nights ago when we did a talk in Manchester was a lot of people aren't aware of features that was in 8.0 sort to do with mobile tethering, which is about metered connections. So hands up who's aware of metered connections. This idea where you can connect, let's say via your phone's 3 or 4G connection, but use it in a minimal way so it doesn't download updates and things like that over your 3G or 4G connection. Are you aware of that?
Not use that.
Yeah, check that out. So something that someone was telling us the other night that we didn't even realise it was in there, and he'd been running up his phone bill because of all the Windows updates he gets while he's on the road. We said, well, you want to set that as a metered connection? He's like, oh, fantastic. Glad you told me that. Just save me so much money.
It's possible sometimes.
Yeah.
Possible. You won't use it. Are you on a meter connection?
Yes, it does.
But it normally prompts you with certain devices it doesn't recognize.
It doesn't always. You can manually set it.
it doesn't always. For instance, if you set up a Wi-Fi hotspot from a smartphone, for example, it may not ask, but you can set this manually. It throttles back all the data. It even throttles back updating things like the live tiles on the start screen, and it helps minimise the data usage that.
Yeah.
Where would you configure that in the connections properties or something?
You can do it in the immersive control panel. If you go into the networks in there,
Yeah.
you'll find your network. You can click it, and it will give you the option in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next. Who uses multiple monitors? Who uses 2 displays?
Okay.
So there's quite a lot of people who aren't using it, actually. That's quite a surprise.
Who uses 3 displays? Who uses more than 3 displays?
Stockbroker? Good thing. So some people are using multiple displays. Okay.
So I was
So
quite surprised that there's a lot of people not using more than one display.
yeah.
So in your workplaces, are you deploying dual screens yet? You are? Not really?
Most of the education side not needed for that.
Because there's a study about 5 or 6 years ago that said employees that are given 2 screens are 18% more productive, and that was 6-7 years ago. And I think those of you who've got 2 or 3 screens now, if someone said you need to get rid of those, how would you feel? It's quite a major shock to the system when you lose that extra real estate that you might have had. So next time, rather than doing a refresh of a PC, give them an extra screen and you might get 80% more productivity out of them. But let's go back to the Windows 8.1 new feature.
Yeah. One of the issues facing businesses and self-employed people, small businesses, large corporations, even individuals at home, is that if you want to use a multi-monitor setup, you don't always have the finance or the luxury or the opportunity to make sure that the monitors you get are identical, that they are going to fit perfectly next to one another, that the resolution is going to be the same, that the screen size is going to be the same. And previously it's been a bit of an issue with the desktop scaling, that different monitors can look slightly different to one another. This has now been rectified, so you can now scale each monitor independently of the other. There are additional improvements that came in first with Windows 8, with multi-monitors to enable better use of the taskbar, so that you can, for instance, let's say, if you use multiple monitors, I don't know how many people who use multiple monitors actually have an awful lot of software installed. Yeah? Yeah.
There's a correlation there.
So what you can do is you can simplify things. You can spread the taskbar all the way along your monitors. You can just have the icons for the programs that are running on that monitor taskbar. You can get rid of it altogether. You can do all sorts of different things with it straight off the bat.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, there's cool multi-display wallpaper sport,
Yeah, we didn't feel that.
including this particularly nice photograph that unfortunately I didn't take
Is
the
it
other day.
Microsoft Island?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I was going to say Fantasy Island, but they're probably the same thing, isn't it?
All right, okay. So the next feature we have here is Skydrive integration. Now, Skydrive itself isn't new. Hands up who's using Skydrive. Quick show of hands on that one. Or other similar competitor tools. Anyone using Dropbox or anything else like that as well? So that's pretty much everybody.
Let's have a very quick competition.
Go on.
Who's got the most SkyDrive in this room? So if you've got most, who's got the most
Biggest
capacity?
SkyDrive.
Who's got the biggest SkyDrive or Dropbox or another product? How many gigabytes have you got in the cloud right now that you're paying for, that you're subscribing for? Who's got more than? Put your hands up. Who's got more than 10 gigabytes? Because you all get a standard 7, so we didn't start at 7. So who's got more than 10? Okay, who's got more than 25? 3, 4 people, 5 people? You want to put your hand up?
Oh, well, you said it was a prize.
Oh, okay. So, who's got 50? 1, 2, 3. Right, okay.
Who's got more than 100?
I guess that's...
Who's got more than 200?
Oh, so the two people are 200, yeah? You got 100?
We just signed up to 365, so I think it comes with 200.
Ah,
Okay.
okay. And you, sir?
155 gig Google Drive.
Google Drive. Oh, we can't give you a price for Google Drive. But
This man should get a suite at least.
we should, yeah, we've got should carry on about. One for you, sir.
So the theme we're getting from this is people like to store more and more stuff here. Now, it's not for everybody. There are some people who are completely against this. But the overwhelming majority of people here use some kind of cloud-based storage. And we've had Skydrive for a couple of years, but there's some differences here in 8.1 specifically.
So who's using a tablet or an ultrabook that has a limited amount of storage? Maybe even just 32 gig or 64 or 128 gig. Anybody using one of these devices? So you can't carry all of your files around with you. So you have to sort of pick and choose of what it is you want to carry. Well, with Skydrive and Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, you can carry all of your files around with you. Because what it does is it will synchronise with your Skydrive folder in the cloud. It will download what look like your files. They will have the same properties as your files. They'll be the same size as your files. They will have the same thumbnails as your files. But what they actually are pointers to your files in Skydrive. So that when you open one, 8.1 will quickly download the file in the background, it will open, and then when you work on that file and save it, it'll save down and then it'll sync it back up to Skydrive, but it'll also keep a local copy there for you if you want it. And you can have all of your files offline on your PC, you can have them all in the cloud, or on a file or a folder basis, or on a whole hard drive basis. You can change, you can select what you want to store locally and what you want to store in the cloud. So it makes it much more flexible on the devices that we're now using more and more, these local storage PCs.
Have you seen like a version of that before with Windows? Maybe to a network drive or to a... Have you seen that? What was that called?
Profiles.
Not quite. I'm thinking...
You mean Microsoft
Yeah.
Skydrive?
No, without Skydrive. What was it? What did we used to have some... Yeah, so it's to do with the same...
But that's also Skydrive.
Offline files. Yes, where you'd make them offline from a file server. But what we're doing now is making them offline to a SkyDrive, to a cloud-based server, in fact. So a lot of your users might be familiar with that technology already, and all you're doing then is giving them that ability to roam outside your organisation. That makes sense.
Now, there's one other thing which we'll touch on again later, but one of the things that depends upon is Microsoft account integration. And we'll come and discuss that a little later on with you. But that's something that we want to go over and explain about, because there's a lot of discussion around this at the moment with businesses, particularly about should a user be logging onto a business machine with a Microsoft account as well as a domain account. So just before we want to come back to that later, I think?
Yes.
Do it as a Q&A, I think, a little bit later on, because I know that's going to cause a lot of discussion, so we'll park that one for now. We'll come back to that a little later on this evening. Okay, another cool feature, which I kind of knew about a little bit before, but until I sort of got to test it, I wasn't that excited about it, but we thought it was quite cool to include here, is support for wireless display technology. So hands up, who's heard of WindowsUG previously? The WindowsUG is kind of being replaced in the market, because that was an Intel standard specifically, it was an Intel chipset standard. That's now being replaced by the new name for it, which is Miracast, which is a more of an industry-wide name and not specifically tied to Intel. And Miracast is something now that's being built into devices. It's not just Windows machines, you can get it for phones and other tablets as well, and even TVs. So the idea with this is that you can wirelessly project from an appropriate device that has that chipset in it. You can project natively from Windows 8.1. So when you bring up the Charms bar, can you do that really quick? You can actually bring it up, we can connect. I'm not going to get that on here, am I? I'll do it later on after the break. We can actually bring up the Charms bar, click on devices, and actually select a wireless display. And the idea with that is you can then project out to a TV that's got the Miracast technology built straight into it, and some of the top-end TVs on the market have that now. Or you can use retrofit technology. One of the things I'm hopefully going to show you later on is this little box called a Screen Beam by Action Tech. It's cost £60, and it will plug straight into HDMI. So you can plug it into a TV monitor, or TV, and then you can wirelessly just connect to that, independent of anything else. So you can use it on older TVs as well as newer ones if it has it built in. But the idea is, if you're going into meetings, so who uses things like meeting rooms a lot? Or goes to a customer site and wants to project out, show them a screen or something like this, the kind of thing we're doing like this, you can now do that wirelessly. And it's independent of any Wi-Fi connections that you've got on your laptop or tablet. So it will still maintain that. You can still be connected to the Wi-Fi and be projecting wirelessly as well at the same time.
So one of the things that we talked about in Manchester was if you're part of the sourcing of equipment team, you need to start thinking about this sort of thing now. So when you buy the next projector or the next TV monitor for your boardroom, make sure it's got a HDMI socket in there, because then one of these gadgets will actually work for you. Or make sure it's built in with Miracast. Because you were saying you went down to one of your favourite TV store, and you've got TVs there now at a premium price with this gadget built in, with this technology built in, and it'd be advertised as supports Miracast. But do start looking at those gadgets. I took yours home last night and actually put it onto my machine. I've got about an 8-year-old Sony machine, but it's got a HDMI port, so it worked perfectly. Okay.
Yeah, I'll try and get this working a little bit later. For some reason it's glitching right now, but I have a Surface device that connects with that natively. It's all built in.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's dependent on the chips. You've got to have the hardware support in box to start with. So, like Andrew's saying, maybe that's something to look for. And we're going to talk about some other standards as well that you might want to look for in new equipment as well. So, anybody here thinking of buying new equipment over the next year or so for their company or for their organisation? So that's one of the things we're going to call out tonight. There'll be another one a little later as well about specifications to look for.
Intel do a wide diagnostic tool to see have you got that chipset, so you can test that. PowerShell. Who's using PowerShell 1, 2, 3, or 4? Who's using it actually live in operation? Just 3 or 4 people, 4 or 5 people. Okay. Who's never heard of PowerShell? Okay, so 3/4 of the room have heard about it and you've never used it. Is it of interest, or why is it people not using it? What's putting you off?
Why hasn't everyone got their hands up?
Yeah.
In other words.
How many people would feel that PowerShell would be of interest or would be of use, but obviously are being put off because there's a learning curve there?
Some people just don't
So
like the sound of it.
maybe a few.
I think it's hidden. Most people don't know.
Okay.
If you compare it with the old system like MS-DOS and the patch down, it's the same thing. But
Well, that's good. No, that's a good answer. To some extent, it's there now in Windows 8.1, and it's front and centre. It's it's built into every version of Windows from now on.
It has been from Windows 7 onwards, but the real thing is, I mean, if you're a services provider, you're going to learn that when you're selling Office 365, all the management of that has to happen through PowerShell. That's the only access you've got to the Office 365 stuff.
You do.
So you'll need to use PowerShell.
That's the only reason why.
And if we'd have stood up and told you that, you'd have listened. But you need to hear it from people who've been using it in the field.
My colleague's actually got a thing in LabTech where he has all these commands pre-populated in LabTech. Whenever he needs to set up a new client, run the first command, give it the first input, run the second command, give it, get the users, get everything.
most of the cloud connection for Microsoft, they will need some
Right. Okay.
Windows Azure and Office 365 log on.
So it's starting to permeate more and more. And so the thing is, we're now at a kind of very mature point now. We're on version 4 that was delivered in 8.1. So that's coming on, it's getting refined. Probably the first couple of versions delivered the most features, and we're starting to get to that point of refinement where people are asking, hey, why don't you throw this in and that in? So there's a few things in 8.1 specifically, just like this gentleman was saying about Office 365, there are certain things you can only do via PowerShell in 8.1. There's a lot of things you could do either way. You could do through a GUI, or you could do from PowerShell. But what you have to kind of remember is PowerShell is all about automating and making things quicker and easier to run, repeated tasks that you need to run. That's really sort of what it's really all about, is automating. This gentleman, John, we were talking about exporting information using PowerShell. We were talking about that beforehand. So there's lots of potential uses for this, but it is very much permeated through the whole ecosystem. It's not just 365 or Windows Server. It's in the desktop too. So there's quite a few features. We called out one here called desired state configuration, where you can deploy what's the best way to describe it? You can deploy a consistent state to machines. So you want to guarantee a certain thing's always in a certain place, or a certain setting's always set a certain way. We can guarantee that now with PowerShell and desired state configuration.
So there's a few things such as kiosk mode, where you just have one app front and centre the entire time. And I saw a very good demo of this, which did eventually work recently, but it was a live demo, so you can't expect live demos to always work.
Thanks for adding that for later.
Yes, I'm just setting people's expectations here. So there's all sorts of new things you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, the feature you're talking about is something called assigned access, which might appeal to some of you. So I know some of you said you've got schools particularly, but potentially there's lots of uses for that functionality where you can boot a Windows machine up, have it log straight in, and deliver a single app to the user, and that's all they can really do with that device. Is that of any interest to anybody here? A few of you. So where would you use that? That's the kind of kiosk mode style.
Use it on a till in sort of environments where you've got kiosk-related PCs, but they need to be PCs for specific reasons. We know we've got a client called Snow Centre, and they have the front office, but the back office all use one system. The front office just needs this one
thing only.
application coming up. But we've got a couple of applications, so we use group policy more to control it. But PowerShell is obviously the best way to go down. But
in this case, you have to use it for that particular thing. So we're just trying to make you aware of it, because there's a lot of IT professionals that they've heard of it, they maybe dabbled, dip the toe in a little bit, but we're trying to say, get out there, do learn it, because there's a vast amount that you can do. It's not just in Windows 8.1, but throughout the whole Microsoft ecosystem as well. We think I think we'll all agree on it. It's kind of pretty much a core skill we would expect these days.
Yeah, so if you were teaching a bespoke class, maybe to 8-year-olds, and teaching them how to use Scratch as a programming language, you don't want the whole Windows real estate there. You just want one application. This is an ideal tool for that, to deploy just that tool. And you're not then disabling that machine so it can't be used for something else. You'd have to re-image the whole machine. You just have to disable assigned access, and it's back to normal again, and enable it for that class, put it back on. So it's locking that machine for that use. Okay? And that's now built into Windows 8.1.
That's a question. How granular can you get with assigned access?
You can make it so it only runs Notepad. They cannot close Notepad down. That's the only thing you can run.
Yeah, that's the concept really, trying to get down to a single app usage.
And then in that app usage, could you go even granular with that? But they can't save or print or something like that.
No, I don't think so. You're just assigning.
You'd lock that down with group policy, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, it's
Yeah, you can
It's more.
Yeah, it's not really as a substitute for group policy. You probably still want that as well for other things in the operating system. But it's more about that first appearance. When somebody turns on a device and they turn it on and they see the screen, what do they get? So can they go back to the start screen? No. Can they go into Alt Tab? No. It's all about that. But you probably want to also complement group policy to stop the application itself writing to the hard drive. Say.
what's up next?
What's up next? Some new features to do with bring your own device, really. So what is people's attitudes towards bring your own device? It's something I kind of see it as a bit of a tidal wave, and I don't think I can run away fast enough from it. But that's my opinion on it.
Does anybody already work in an organisation where people bring in their own tablets and laptops?
About 25% we're allowed to actually do that.
Does anybody actually take their own tablets and laptops into work? Yeah, a few more.
Mobile phone, cell phones, smartphones. Do you use your own smartphone now, or are you still getting company assigned ones? Yeah. Okay. Okay. And how do you feel about the company being able to remotely wipe either the whole device or just their data off your device? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think their data is acceptable. You can't allow people control over other people's data.
And do you think it's good that Windows allows you to choose how granular you want to wipe? It's quite a unique feature of that level of permission. You can assign certain folders that you can delete and certain data repositories that you can delete and
I
protect.
think it's catching up slowly on BlackBerry, but
On the device, on the cell phone.
that level, but on a BlackBerry you can tell exactly what button the person is pressing if you want to know. So there's a level, I suppose. It depends what you want out of your devices. I mean, in normal cases where you've just got a mobile phone, it's got email on it.
Yeah.
As a company, you want to protect your data.
You do.
You can't. There's no give on that side of it. At the same time, you can't affect the users.
You can't wipe the whole device.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
yours.
It's not your device to wipe, and that's why BYOD is a very sort of complex thing. And before we can start doing that, is you've got to have set specifics in place on what you can and can't do as a business.
So Chris was alluding to a bit of a tidal wave happening. Do you think it's going to get more popular?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah? So it's something we need to start thinking about addressing now, and what policies we're going to have in place for that.
Businesses rather pay you a little bit,
Yeah.
and you use your own device than them putting all the money in
For you to lose,
and paying for the.
You're probably going to look after your device a little bit more, protect it, not going to leave it on the train or a bus. And whose data is it? If you've got your family photographs on there that you've not put up to Skydrive, you're going to look after it a little bit more, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple of we could drill into some areas of like open management stuff. We can come back to that. But the two features, just to come back to the slide here, the two features that are new for 8.1 are actually two features that require Server 2012 R2 as well. So these are kind of designed to work together. They're co-managed features. So let's just introduce them for you. First one is called Workplace Join. Now, I'm sure you're probably familiar with the concept of a domain join, aren't we? We domain join a computer. We've got a Windows 8 Pro machine. We domain join it, and the administrator can deploy group policies and manage that device. That's less easy to do if you've got somebody's consumer device, partly because it's maybe their own, if it's BYOD. But what if it's also running a version of Windows that doesn't support domain join? What do we do then? If I've got, say, an RT device or someone's got a home edition of Windows on their computer, we're stuck. So that's one of the things that you get here. Workplace Join allows you to enroll devices into the corporate environment, almost like a domain join. Really, think of it like a halfway house to a domain join. So the administrator will see that object appear in Active Directory, and they can manage that. They can right-click it. So a lot of the control freakiness that you need when you're administering your network, and you've got these user devices, you've got that because you can look after that device and you can control it. It's an object you have in Active Directory. And what the user gets from this is a single sign-on experience. Because I could use my consumer device, attach it to work with Workplace Join, and then I can access network resources without needing to sign into each and every one of those. So if I wanted to talk to a network share, and then a printer, and then my mailbox, I could do those things anyway but I would require to log into each one of those individually. That's the issue. So that's really what that solves. It gives you a
Is
single
that
sign-on.
available in all the versions of Windows 8.1 or
Yes.
only professional onwards?
All of them. RT up. Yep. RT, Pro, Enterprise, any other flavors, I can't think of more.
Does that require any special licensing?
No, it's just baked, it's baked into the OS. It's baked in, ready to go. So you can just access that from the immersive control panel to set it up. Okay. The other thing we have here is going back to a feature Andrew was talking about. Andrew was talking about offline files. Who remembers that feature in Windows? It's been around for years. It was an XP. Okay, so that's great. That's the ability to synchronize files from a network server, file server, onto your, let's say, laptop, because you want to work away from the office. But how does that work if you're not using a domain joined computer? It doesn't. That's the issue. So if you want to have that BYOD experience and embrace those devices, we can do a similar thing. It's not exactly the same, it's called something else, but it's a similar look and feel, called work folders. So the administrator provisions a share on a server, running server 2012 R2 again, and users can connect in and sync up a user data folder within that share. So you can have lots and lots of users, each has their own little partition space within that administrator-defined share. And they can synchronize that over the internet, or if they're in your building, they might want to do it over Wi-Fi, over your local area network, but they can do that over the web if they want. So you can upload, download files two-way from any, and again, it's any Windows 8.1 device, including the consumer builds as well. Is that of interest to anybody?
Can you enforce BitLocker and things like that for encryption?
Can we enforce that with
Well,
work
on
folders? Not directly.
On new devices, they're pretty
Yeah, go ahead.
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say work folders, not specifically, but because.
We've got. I mean, I just got a new Surface 2, and I went to turn on the device encryption to discover that it's turned on by default, which is very nice. And Windows 8 computers from here on are going to come pre-encrypted with this device encryption already enabled.
So to answer your question, if you're accessing a Server 2012 R2 machine and that's BitLocker encrypted, then that machine is protected. You know, if you wanted to encrypt the files across the network, you'd have to use something like an encrypted file system. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I was just thinking if I had my own laptop and I synchronise files to it, then on my own laptop and the administrative permissions to say if I lost it, that someone just couldn't read them off my laptop if I left it on the train, I need to say yes, you can do caching those files onto a local your own device, but that can't be readable by someone else. Someone else next to your laptop takes a hard drive out. I don't want those files readable.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the whole security feature set of 8.1, probably the next slide. But yes, you need to be deploying something on your machine rather than the files on the server will be safe and secure.
No,
when you bring them to your machine, then that's
as
your
an
machine.
administrator, I want to enforce privacy.
Okay.
Or the mini UAG effectively.
Yep, let's talk about it on the next slide. I think that'll be
Okay. Okay, if I got the next one.
Right,
Come back to that.
who's been in a situation whereby you've either been at a remote location and you've needed to print something out, or you've had a visitor from somewhere else, another office or another company, and they need to print something out, and you try to connect to the printer, or you eventually have to find a USB stick and then have to copy it, whatever it is they want, onto a USB stick, and then you plug it into your computer and you discover that you've got an earlier version of Office and it won't open, so you have to find another computer, and so on and so on, and eventually you waste 3/4 of an hour trying to print out 2 pieces of paper.
I think I could beat that. I was doing exactly that last night with a brand new printer, and it took over an hour to get exactly 2 pieces of paper out of the printer, actually. And I'm a Windows geek. So what does that do?
I mean, Wi-Fi printers have been around for a while now anyway. I had my first Wi-Fi printer. I had a great example. I really wasn't. It came free with the PC, so I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that it had Wi-Fi. And then I was at work and I was trying to print something out on the work printer, and it just didn't come out because I was on my own laptop. And so I went to print it again, and I checked it was the right printer, and then it printed out. And I went home later on in the day, about 3.5, 4 miles away, and there it was sitting on my printer. So that was a bit disconcerting the first time. But now you can, if you're working off a laptop or a tablet, either using this new Wi-Fi Direct feature or NFC, you don't have to worry about getting access to a company network in order to be able to print anymore. You can pair your laptop or tablet directly with the printer and print yourself and make things much simpler. We were talking earlier about the things to look out for when you're purchasing new kit, and this would be, not just for work. This would be, in other places as well, to either have it, buy printers that have got this capability, or maybe deliberately buy printers that haven't got this capability and just have one in the corner that people can then use, depending on your management policy.
Especially great for guests who are going into your network. You don't want to give them network access, you just want to let them print. And if you advertise the fact that this is you might advertise your Wi-Fi, which is on a separate network, and you do Wi-Fi printing like this. It's really cool. This is going to take off more and more. It's still in its infancy at the moment, but what we're saying, a lot of these features in 8.1 are baked into the OS now. And as 8 evolves and gets more and more adopted, these features are ready for you.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone's got an RT device, but when I was looking to install this printer last night, I went to look on the manufacturer website for an RT device driver, and they said, no, you don't even need it. Windows will just find it on the network. Just switch your computer on, make sure it's on the same network as the printer, and we'll just do the rest. Windows find it for you, don't even think about it. We'll just install everything for you.
Windows
just can't create the document, that's all.
Yeah, Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 is extremely good at just finding Wi-Fi connected printers. You just go in, you go to print something, it's already there. I hadn't realised before, but our Fantasy Island has made a return.
Different view. Or Microsoft Island. So have we talked about the NFC thing as well?
Yes, again with NFC enabled printers that are beginning to come out on the market now, a simple tap between your device, whatever it is, and the printer will enable you to pair, and then you can print. And it's just going to make life. It's just going to save so much time for people.
And you'll see NFC come out in other areas as well. Such have you seen it on tap to pay, or when you tap into two smartphones together? That's using this NFC, this near field communication.
I was using it on a bus stop the other day.
Sorry, what is it?
Near field communication.
So not all Wi-Fi printer have NFC.
No, not at all. They're two different things. But the whole idea with NFC is that you don't need to worry about device drivers. You just walk up to it, you put your device against it, you literally just tap it, and that's it. It'll just print it for you. So you don't have to go in and say, I want this device, I've got to download the driver for it. None of that. You just tap it, it goes. And you can get those. I've been told, I haven't seen them on the market, but I've been told you can get the NFC add-on for older printers as well. So you don't have to necessarily have a printer with NFC built into it.
So
you get like an
NFC
add-on plug-in module.
Is it software?
It's a hardware spec. It's a hardware spec. So you need to have a tablet, for example, with that built into it, and the printer also.
Because you said you can add it later.
No, you can get like an add-on module for printers to attach to the printer later on.
Okay.
That's the idea. I don't know if they're on the market yet, but that's the concept.
They're more fun next
There are a few technologies in Windows 8.1 that are that are future-proofing the operating system for hardware that isn't specifically out yet.
We talk about the APIs and things like that. They're almost like preloading Windows 8.1 with all the future goodness that's going to come through when the manufacturers, the OEMs, start catching up.
One of them we'll talk about in a bit.
Let's go to this one.
This is one of them. I'm thinking of another one we'll be talking about in a bit. One of the many issues facing business users, going on a break and coming back from lunch and having to wake your computer from sleep, and you might as well go and get yourself a coffee, and whilst everything all starts up again. There's new hardware that's now going on sale that supports this instant go feature in Windows 8.1, where a PC can literally resume from sleep to a usable state in 300 milliseconds. And you're working. So again, this is future-proofing. 8.1 is another one of these technologies to watch out for when you're buying new kit. This is another one both for work and home use.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing about connected standby is also maintaining the computer in a state where it's sending or receiving data to the network as well. So for example, you can wake that PC up, it's already going to have your emails there ready to view. and it's been synchronizing those in the background while it's sort of been asleep. So that's something that you can actually use today. You can already do that. Some of you have that on RT devices, for example, as well. But that's going to become more and more mainstream in the hardware specs.
And Windows 8.1 manages that in a very power efficient way, that it will make sure that it reduces everything, reduces the power usage down to nothing, basically. And then when things need to update, when your email, when your live tasks or anything else needs to update, it just makes sure they all do it simultaneously. It just wakes up momentarily, does what it needs to do, and goes back to sleep again.
Yeah, because we're all greedy. We want the lightest possible device at the cheapest cost that does the most things and conserves battery, has the longest battery life, but at the same time does everything I want it to do. So it's trying to meet all those things, be fast, and I haven't had to spend a huge amount for it. It's trying to get you towards that point. So that helps. Right, we have another hardware thing to talk about here as well, don't we?
Yes, this is another new technology waiting to be implemented. Gesture control is now built into Windows 8.1 through new technologies that may or may not be with us. Yeah, there is a Connect for Windows, is still a developer device. The Leap Motion is now on sale. It's a version 1 product. It's going to be improved, but there will be other ways of using gesture control with PCs, be they through webcams or through additional hardware or through things built into monitors coming down the road. And this is one of those technologies it's one to watch. I don't think anybody at the moment really has a grasp on how it's going to be used, but it will be very interesting to see what ideas developers come up with and companies come up with for using gesture control.
I was reading something on the news last night about being able to do digital autopsies now, so they don't have to cut all this apart, and they would be able to manipulate that on a tablet, or they'd be able to, so you could be a doctor and then kind of move your way around the body without actually getting any blood on your hands. Oh. So that sounds quite a good application to me. So that sort of thing, you don't have to be
I think it was, they were doing it for people whose religious beliefs mean that they don't want to be opened up by a doctor after they die. So
there's a lot of applications for things like that, I think, but that's, again, this is baked into the OS software-wise, and we're just waiting for things to come along now that will take advantage of that and leverage that. Like applications, new applications, we're waiting for those to come.
As is support for 3D printing, which is also now baked into Windows 8.1.
Can also be used as a logon session.
Yeah, I don't know. Can we?
We're going to talk about fingerprints and biometrics shortly, so that's probably yes. So this is not a security feature. This is instead of you touching the keyboard. If you think about a dentist or a doctor who doesn't want to actually mucky their hands, or or a kiosk worker, you don't want to provide them a keyboard. This is a gesture control that actually alleviates the need to actually type or use a keyboard. This is the input device. In effect.
A few years ago, there was what was hailed at the time by some people as a fantastic new technology for hospitals. Came out, which was, and I saw it in use in a few places, which was this little laser thing that sat on the desk and projected a keyboard onto the desk. You've probably seen one, you may have seen one yourself, and people were saying, let's put it in hospitals. And I also remember reading very shortly afterwards that nurses were complaining of RSI. So there's new ways of interacting with things.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of mileage in that, and I think what's her name, Julie Larson-Green was talking about this yesterday in the news, saying that she believes this is kind of the next big wave of how we're going to start interacting with computers in the next sort of 2 to 3 years. We'll be doing this a lot more, and we've all seen how the connectors exploded onto the market, and we almost take that for granted now. But a couple of years ago, that was like.
To be honest, I think if we go back to the days of Windows XP, people have been using gestures for a very long time.
And it's the same kind, I guess.
If you look at your kids, are they? They're quite happy with tablets. They're quite happy with touch. We're almost dinosaurs because we're still using mice and keyboards. They're not anymore. And it's evolving. This is the next stage. It might be a little bit too soon for us right now, but a couple of years' time.
Is that currently being tested or used for paraplegics? They mentioned tongue piercing that was used to control remotely.
Wow.
Oh, right, okay. I don't know, but it sounds
similar to the sibling tube, and the sibling tube is kind of a bit
Oh, yeah.
So they use tongue piercing instead.
Well, I know Microsoft Labs have been doing a lot of work.
Like a joystick,
I don't think all of that's hit mass market. I think Microsoft have been at the sort of forefront in researching this a lot, under Cambridge for a while, but I don't think it's really been grandiose in terms of reach until now.
But it will be interesting to see, as I said, how it's going to ultimately be used and what applications people will have for it.
So we need to get a tongue piercing instead of a mouse next time, is that what you're saying? It could be.
What are you doing? Checking my email.
All right. So another quick look to the future on our next slide here as well.
Okay, who's in a company that's using older bespoke software on Windows XP that's going to be expensive to recode? Anybody? Yeah, there's a few. There's a few. To ease the transition, there are a whole load of new APIs for new interface features in Windows 8.1 to make it easier for companies to make the transition. And one thing I always say to people when it comes to apps, I know that people view apps have got a reputation because of the iPad and from Android, because for so many years now they've been around, but you do not have any fewer pixels on your screen when you use an app. It's all down to how the app is coded, how the interface is designed, how clever people can be to use it, and apps can also take advantage of features that since Windows 8, such as sharing and other APIs that can make workflow a lot easier and a lot simpler.
Yeah, I think I've seen more of that kind of stuff built in already, where you've got when you swipe across in the charts, and you've got share and you've got devices. A lot more of those seem to have come alive. I've noticed in 8.1 there's a lot more functionality there through just not the built-in apps, but also third-party apps. That ability to share content from one app to another, or to the one that I really like is reading lists. I'm going to build a reading list, so you can be inside a web browser and think, oh, there's a really good page, I want to read it later. So just add that to reading list through the charms. So that kind of integration and that kind of the reach where one app is talking to another. I think there's going to be a lot more of that kind of things as well. There already is.
Especially
who works deeper and deeper, I think.
Who works in education? The sheer amount of reproduction of information in education is just like it's completely nuts. I'm looking forward to software being able to simplify that job.
To some extent, I've seen with 8.1 and 8 as well, there's a whole new buzz again around the OS. There's like, oh, can you do this? Did you know you could do this? And yes, there's an education there, but we're seeing a lot more people sharing ideas and sharing features, and like Chris was saying about the charms. And, it's like, oh, did you know you could do this? And you're seeing people sharing, even at the home level. The child sharing the parent, oh, you do it like this. We didn't really have that for the last 5 years. That's coming back into the house. Watch your kids this Christmas. If you're doing them a tablet or they're using Windows 8.1, they'll actually start to teach you things because they'll explore, and that's what's been missing in computing for a while. Is that level of exploration again? The fun, and that's what 8.1 it brings. The kids are exploring it left, right, and
centre. Yeah, the kids get on really quick with it. We just, as adults, we need to follow up. I think a bit more.
We just use the desktop, and we don't understand this whole child thing.
I was visiting some friends recently in Canada, and they've got a 16-month-old daughter who knows how to use his iPad. So she was playing with my Surface tablet, and she was going onto the side to try and push the button and to get back to the home screen, and it wasn't working for her. Bearing in mind, I said she's 16 months old, it took her all of 90 seconds to figure out how to work the interface on my Surface. We were astonished.
Yeah, cool. Right, so...
Okay.
Anyway.
Shall we restart how this works? We have a particularly good picture, but we have here, running Windows RT, which has even come as a surprise to us.
Mm-hmm. That's a new RT device, isn't it?
This is a new Surface 2, which, if you're considering a tablet for Christmas, is much lighter than the version 1. I should add. So here we've got, let's say one fire up.
So that's projecting the
OneNote.
Screen, not first screen.
So our resolution and colours might be out a little bit, but
yes, I think.
I don't know.
But it doesn't mean
it's not really.
It's better on the TV screen.
It's fine.
Oh, you've got it down.
Okay. So here, we've got OneNote, so we can do whatever it is we want to do in OneNote. Do you want to do something in OneNote?
Oh, I don't know.
So one of the cool things about this, if you're an educator, you've now got your PowerPoint, you've got the web at your fingertips, and you're projecting to the screen. Okay, you can walk around the classroom, you can show people. Okay, one of the cool things that we demoed this week was, Chris, you had a really cool story about your kids. We're using this, and upstairs.
This is that Miracast feature we were talking about before, so I thought, right, how can I test this out? I want to show people this. It sounds like a really good feature. So I bought this device. You can see it here. It's called it's by a company called Action Tech. It's called the Screen Beam Pro. But there's a couple of others in the market as well. Anyway, so I bought this device. I plug it in. I get it working on my TV. And my kids go, oh wow, look at that. That's cool. So what can we do with this? I know. I'll load the camera app and film myself going around the house. Partly because that's what kids do. So, I can see myself on the screen. And then also they wanted to see like how far can I go with this. So we managed to go literally all around the house. And still the receiver in the front room was picking that up, plugged into the TV. So I thought that was pretty cool.
So I'm just going to leave the building and you can see how far.
Yeah, see you later. Bye.
Bye.
So the idea is it's connecting over wireless. At the same time, the device can also be connected to your normal regular Wi-Fi connection, so you're connected to the internet, doing all those things at the same time. But it's also setting up like a secondary ad hoc network between this receiver and the device as well. So you're not detaching from your regular Wi-Fi to do this. It's in addition to that. So we could potentially be streaming video off the internet or something like that and piping it out through the projector at the same time.
It looks really cool on there. It looks great on the
The
screen.
picture is excellent on these TVs.
So
unfortunately, through the projector, it's not quite as.
So something else that we thought about doing was, asking you guys some of the. Might take your screen back because I don't know what you've got on there. So was asking you guys questions. Imagine if it's in an auditorium or it's a big 2,000 play. We could actually walk around with a camera and you ask the question into the screen, and because it's you get all the sound, it's transmitted. It's actually really cool. Then. Yeah, so rather than a roving mic, you actually get the person asking the question, the picture, and they're asking the question. So think about that in your classroom, in your auditoriums, that sort of thing. That's where we're demonstrating pretty cool technology that's only just been released.
Yeah. So I can see it on Question Time next week.
Yes.
And imagine how excited I am to discover it's built into a device I didn't know was built into.
And I didn't know either, so we've learned something too.
For £69, I think that device. But if your TV and your device work, if you don't need to buy an extra kit, think about Christmas Day showing your holiday snaps or your Christmas snaps on the TV from your armchair to the family. You know what? Between 3 and 3:30, nothing else to do. Use that time. Rather than getting all the cables out and plugging it in and uploading and
Technology has found new and innovative ways to bore people.
I probably did last week. It was great fun. It was great.
Where my kids' case just running around the house.
Chris, what have you bought for your kids for Christmas?
Well, being a good parent, of course, I bought them.
Do you realise that I'm now going to have to edit that bit out before it goes on YouTube?
Because it's a Christmas reference.
No, because they might see it.
Oh, because they see it.
Right, what are we going to do next episode? Do we want to take questions, or do we want to move on to?
Should we do a little bit on?
Oh, you were going to talk about security, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we had a question about BitLock or security, and one of the features, and Michael alluded to it already with something called device encryption. So whenever you buy a brand new Windows 8.1 device now, it is out of the box encrypted using a feature called device encryption. Okay? You must, when I say it's out of the box, it comes ready with that. The minute you sign in using a Microsoft account, the recovery key is uploaded to your Skydrive. Alright? So once you get it home, you unpack your device, you sign in with your Microsoft account, you've got that recovery key safe. But what it means is, if somebody steals that device, all your data, all your photographs, all your information cannot be hacked, cannot be cracked, cannot be stolen. The only thing that a thief can do with that device is wipe it.
Somebody told me, a friend of mine works for London Underground, and he told me, I was writing something about this, I can't remember what it was, and it was about a year and a half ago, and I asked him how many laptops, tablets and other similar devices get lost on London transports every year. And he said it was somewhere in, it was a phenomenal number, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was somewhere in the region of 1,000 a day. And these were only the ones that were turned in.
Wow.
Or so, no, it can't have been that much, it must have been about 100 a day or so across London. And you extrapolate that out, you know, and bags and hatches at railway stations and leaving things in cafes and or leaving them on the train. Has anybody ever left something on the train? Because I know I have. So I go running back for it.
Is this the local login on 8.1? Because I found I had to sign in with an account, and then how do you have several users on a machine? Because
Right.
you set
you're
up
going to
your
talk about
account.
We were going to talk about that, yes. So, that's a very good question. When you are installing 8.1 on a machine, it asks you, do you want to sign in with a Microsoft account? Now, you can say no. It's totally optional. All right? So if you want to just set up a local account only and work off a local account, absolutely fine. No problems with that. However, you're going to miss out on some of the goodies. So some of the goodies include things like the Skydrive that we talked about, the ability to access the store and download apps and things like that. But you're sort of encouraged, you push down that avenue of, it really would be a good idea to set up a Microsoft account or use your existing one, because you've probably already got one anyway, if you've got Hotmail or Outlook.com or any of those kinds of services from even years back. If you've got something, I've got an old Hotmail account from years and years ago. That is your Microsoft account, okay? So if you've got access to Skydrive or anything like that, or Xbox Live, then you've got a Microsoft account. So the idea is, it's in your, well, they like to think it's in your interest really to get you signed in to your Windows device with that Microsoft account. That way, you're unlocking a multitude of access to things, not just SkyDrive, but one of the really cool things is the ability for your settings to roam from one PC to another. So who here uses more than one device? Who maybe uses a couple of computers or a tablet and then a laptop or something like that? This is pretty much everybody.
So these aren't just your things like your app settings and your start screen settings and your desktop settings. It's not just that. It's Wi-Fi passwords. So that you log into Wi-Fi on one device. The next time you want to log into Wi-Fi on another tablet or laptop, it'll just connect. The password's already there. Your internet usernames and passwords are automatically synced. Also now in Windows 8 was first introduced, you can recover these if you search for web credentials at the start screen. Then you can recover your usernames and passwords if you can't remember what they are.
Don't worry, they're safely locked away.
They
Your
are.
credential locker
That's
behind your username and password you
Yeah.
need to sign in on, so they're not just open for anybody.
Yeah, so you have to type a password, get password. It's a fair swap. So there's all sorts of things that are synchronised. Your internet bookmarks and
reading list.
Reading
list between devices. So if you've flagged a web page to read later and you've added that to reading list, that'll be on your home PC or whatever the next PC that is that you've signed in with.
And of course, one of the most useful things that, from feedback I've had, your start screen layout.
Yeah. Now I think we might have another discussion about start screen in a moment. But so the question, coming back to the question, do I have to sign in with a Microsoft account? Was really the question. You don't have to. It's totally optional. Some of you that might be totally against it can even group policy that away to take that option out if you don't want them to. But it's totally compatible if you want to be able to log in with a domain credential at the same time as a Microsoft account. Otherwise, how would you get to the store and other such facilities? But they are independent. So
you can create local accounts.
Local accounts on their own, no connectivity
or
no connectivity to Microsoft accounts is absolutely fine. But you're just not going to get the best out of it. You're going to miss out on a few, what we think, cool features.
So what about the difference between professional and premium 8.1?
So in Windows 8.1 there's 3 editions. There's Windows 8, there's Windows 8 Professional, and there's Windows 8 Enterprise, and also the 8.1 versions as well. So
And our team with Veracast.
And Windows Phone.
So hopefully you can guess what the Enterprise version will do. That allows you all the Enterprise functionality for a business. Okay, some special features that Chris mentioned already. The work folders with a 2012 R2 server as well.
That's
Enterprise features.
So that one's on the wall actually.
The professional version is for the home user who's an enthusiast who wants more than just the Windows 8 feature set. He wants some of the professional features such as BitLocker to go. These features are professional and enterprise only.
Yeah, and domain join, of course, as well.
Whereas the Windows 8 and 8.1 are purely aimed at the home user. So they will have some of the enterprise features, some of the business type features. Yes, sir.
I think one of the most important enterprise features should be not only for enterprise, which is Windows to go.
Windows to go.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I've been very disappointed from Microsoft that they limit it to enterprise. Everybody in this room can use Windows 2. Because you all have the same problem.
Whoever actually walks off with my lovely troubleshoot and optimised Windows 8 book will have a bit in there of how to create a Windows to go drive without needing Windows to go.
Oh, that's good.
It can be done.
So should we do a giveaway at this point? Because we have not really given a
Should we do a
giveaway.
giveaway?
Let's do a
Let's
giveaway.
That sounds like a cue for a giveaway.
So should we give our VIP users first dibs?
Yes.
You said we would give these
Yeah.
VIPs something extra,
So you
something
look at
special.
3 people. Would you like to come and choose one of our
One of our books.
giveaway
Choose the
books?
books, VIP people.
Very good. That's a good book. I can recommend that one.
Yes. And co-authored it.
Thank you. So, in fact, let's come back to Windows. Did you have a question to do with the previous
Alright.
by the way, before we go on to Windows to go?
In order to have the media center edition, you have to have the Windows 8 Pro, is that right?
No.
Yes, you do.
Oh, is it Pro only?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Windows 8 Pro.
But it's not included in VOD.
No,
The
that's
reason
right,
is-
I think it's non feed or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, 6 or 7 quid or something.
The reason
Pro
is,
version.
yeah, it's because of the licensing costs for the DVDs and kernel Blu-ray codecs. So that's why it was done that way.
It was costing Microsoft, I don't know how much, not like they can't afford it or anything, but they were paying a lot of
We're gonna give the
licensing
other one away.
fees to third parties for codecs that they statistically analysed and said, 99% of people never use these anyway.
Because that's like built in,
Yeah, it was.
Windows 7,
It was, and they were paying a horrific amount, apparently, they didn't say what the figures were, but they were paying a horrific amount of cash to these third parties. And a lot of the time people just never invoked the codecs anyway. Through the monitoring they did, they found out that it was just a waste of time providing something that 99% of people never actually used. So they just took it out, but gave it you back as a bolt-on that you could purchase for, I think it's about £6, isn't it?
I use it every day and
Well,
have been for years.
But early adopters would have got that for free. There was like a 3-month period, I think it was, where you could, if you got 8 in the first 3 months, you could get the Media Center add-on for nothing. Yeah. And I forgot, and I had to buy it for my kids. I knew about that as well, and then I forgot to do it on my kid's computer until a week later.
No, actually, I paid for it, and then they announced the freebie giveaway.
Oh,
a few
no.
days after.
Oh, what about
So
that?
I think I can beat you.
Okay, so let's have some more giveaways. We've got a few more prizes. What questions? So we can give prizes away for good questions. We can give you good questions and see if you can answer them. Anyone got any good questions for us? Any tricky questions? About something we talked about today, or something we should?
Yeah, is Windows 8.1 very good, or is it just very good in comparison to Windows 8, which was awful?
No, it is very good. The work I'm doing, I do a lot of video production, so I need performance, more than anything else. I need things to be speedy, I need the performance. And with Windows 8, initially, people had a reaction to the start screen be whatever that reaction was. Much has been improved, but certainly when it does come down to performance, Windows 8 started faster and shut down faster than Windows 7. 8.1 speeds things up even further. The performance has been tweaked more, so it is much better in terms of performance than Windows 8.
Yeah, we think it's better. I'd rather ask you the question, what was wrong with Windows 8 for you? And have you used Windows 8.1 and can you say if it's better or worse for you? Because this is your user group, so we can stand up here and say, it's great, use it. But what are you guys thinking?
I use my official work desktop is XP still. My work laptop is Windows 7. My home laptop is Windows 8 and it's now 8.1. Because I did what a lot of people did who go to the office going to Windows 8.
You got the free upgrade?
Okay.
No.
So 8.1?
Yeah, no, it was a free upgrade to 8.1. It was a cheap upgrade to 8. Which a lot of people did, and that was the key to the backlash, is that I paid for this and why. 8.1 is a lot better, but I can't work out whether 8.1 is very good, or it's because I hated Windows 8, and it's just little things.
So what was it about Windows 8 that you hated? Because that's...
Hate's a strong word.
Didn't
love
the
so much.
start screen is more configurable now, and it's better, and you've got a better way of looking at your apps. There's a button which shows you all of your apps,
On the apps, yeah.
which makes life a lot easier.
You can configure the all apps view to show you your desktop programs first, and of course we've got boot to desktop now.
And is that because you become more familiar with it as well?
No, it was instantly.
Right.
8.1 was better than 8 straight away.
Yeah.
It was just the way it works, the way it behaved. I felt 8 was just awful.
it's a matter of opinion as well. I think
I was going to give you one of these books, sir. I think it's a great question, and then you answered it yourself, I think. Sorry. I think it's Christmas. You can give one of those for Christmas. So, what else about 8 and 8.1? You know,
I have a client that he would like to roll back from 2.1 to 8. Because
wow, okay.
Because of Skydrive. He does not want to use Microsoft account to log on to his computer because he thinks Microsoft account is easier to hack than local.
So he doesn't need it.
He
Microsoft account for this?
No, because he wants to use Skydrive, but he does not want to use Microsoft account to start his PC.
Right.
You can just disable.
You cannot. With Windows 8.1, if you want to use Skydrive, you have to use Microsoft account. With Windows 8, you don't have to.
The reason why you've got it like that is because you upgraded to Windows 8.1. If you install Windows 8.1 from fresh, you don't need to set up a live account. Because you upgraded, you needed to obviously go to the store to get the upgrade. That's why you need to link account. If you go and install Windows 8.1 straight through, you could attach it.
I think what you're saying is that you can't use Skydrive at all unless you log in to your account using the Microsoft account.
No, that has nothing to do with that. If you want to use Skydrive on Windows 8.1, you have to use Microsoft account.
But you did an 8.0 as well, unless you were just
No, that's only 8.1, not 8.
No, it wasn't. It was a separate. It was still the separate desktop app.
You can use whatever you want.
I'm thinking of the, forget what I was thinking of the desktop.
No, Windows 7 and Windows 8,
Windows
you can use your own login account.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
But with Windows 8.1, you have to use...
Yeah, they just made it more integrated because that's what the feedback from people was. They wanted a more integrated experience.
Any other questions?
If you don't log in, you don't get the...
But what they say it's not as secure as local ID.
Who says?
But where does the storage go?
Because if you use your email address, for example, then your email address is known by so many people. If somebody wants to hack it, then he'll hack your computer. He'll have access to your computer.
I see what you're saying.
Whatever.
So you might want to ask him whether or not if he's got a new device, you might use something like a virtual smart card, because then that's virtually uncrackable, because that's using very, very secure, rather than using a password. So you can actually use the device and use an 8-digit, an 8-character PIN.
It's also a good point to jump in and say, if anybody use or has hardware that's got biometrics in it, such as a fingerprint reader, full biometric support is now built into Windows 8.1, so you don't need you still need the hardware drivers for it, but you don't need the third-party software to manage it anymore. You just go into the password options in the immersive control panel, and underneath your picture password and your PIN, you've got an option there to configure your fingerprint reader. So that's now
that's built. Not only is it built into the Windows, it's actually everything to do with Windows now. So whether you need a login password, it's your fingerprint. If you then have to do user account control, it wants to elevate, it's your password. It's your fingerprint.
I think
it's one for all, if you know what I mean.
I think one of the things that you're probably taking away from this is that this is no small update. There is an awful lot here, and there's been an awful lot for business put in. I think that was their primary focus.
There is a lot. If you look at the FAQ on what's new, pretty much all of that is about business-related features.
Yeah.
There's a lot of consumer stuff as well. But sorry, this chap had his hand up at the bottom.
Well, I was wondering how you feel about having something that's yours and unique to your biometrics, whether it's your fingerprint or whatever it is, on a machine. That if something happens to it, you can't take that back. Somebody's got it.
No, you can't. It's also encrypted by default. It's part of the device encryption. So nobody can. That is stored. That is stored securely.
Yeah, this information on new Windows 8 computers. This is stored in the TPM.
Okay.
This information. That's the new Windows 8 computers will all come with the TPM, and that's where this information is kept.
Have you heard about TPMs before? Have you heard about what TPM stands for? So Trusted Platform Module. This is something that came out 3 or 4 years ago now, but it was quite an expensive add-on. It was a module that would be built into your motherboard, but it was a premium. A little bit like in the good old days you had Pixie Boot, there's an extra module on your motherboard. Now it's becoming very standard. And with 8.1, part of the certified program, Windows 8.1 devices all come with a TPM chip. And they all therefore have this device encryption, which uses BitLocker technology to encrypt the whole drive. So any passwords, any credentials you put on that device are encrypted.
Yeah, and that's out of box. You know, as soon as you turn that on for the first time, that's going to be an encrypted disk to start with on day one. Right? So you don't have to turn it on; it's already encrypted out of box.
So all of a sudden, you know, if you imagine all the data loss that happens when you lose a PC or lose a thumb drive, that goes away if you use one of these new devices.
Yeah.
And that is on every SKU. It's on, you know, 8, RT, Pro, and Enterprise. It's not like only for the business customers; it's for everybody.
Whose machine is that?
Mine.
I don't know why.
Start, shut down, and restart. Is that like a third party app?
No, they're shortcuts I created myself. It's in the book.
Oh, okay.
Is that
It's
available
really-
from all good retailers, Mike?
It's available from all good retailers and from Amazon.
If I went to-
Troubleshooting optimised Windows 8 inside out. Well, like, actually, it's good.
Okay.
I'll give away one of my other books. Who's got a family member who constantly phones them up wanting help?
Everybody does. Everyone does. Who doesn't?
Here we go.
Maybe it's a Christmas present. Okay.
While he's giving that out, the other thing I was going to quickly show you before we leave the password thing was great about biometrics and all that. That's great. I don't have that. But what I use the most, which I find the best thing since sliced bread, is that picture password. And a lot of my friends use that as well. So I sign in. I'm not going to show you what it is, obviously, but I have a picture on here, and I use a series of swipes and gestures here to log in with. So this whole idea of a password, I don't even type a password. You know, I log in using my Microsoft account, but using a picture password on the device. So obviously that's a touch screen thing. You don't get that on non-touch devices, but it's just an alternative. Biometrics is good for some people.
I log in
touch
with the
screen, log in with a PIN number, a password, gestures. There's a whole variety of different ways to log onto a Windows 8 machine. It doesn't have to be just the traditional username and password combo that we're used to using, or email address and password.
A question. So if you want to connect to Skydrive,
Yep.
you don't have to use their Microsoft account.
No, I am. I'm logging in using my Microsoft account, but via a picture password to get into
So
that.
both.
I think there are third-party utilities that will connect to Skype.
It's one of the same
I'm pretty
things.
sure there are.
I have a Microsoft account,
Yeah.
and I'm logging in using those credentials by getting access to it via the gesture logon.
So you need both. Then.
So,
The picture password is enabling me to use the
the
credentials.
tablet has remembered the credentials for the Skydrive.
Okay.
So all he's doing really is just unlocking his device.
It's just a way to unlock the device.
And then it's still it's fully functional. It's not every time you go to Skydrive, every time you're not putting your password in again and again and again. All he's doing is unlocking his device. So that raises another question about, you know, everybody who hasn't got a screensaver password or walk away for lunch and leave the machines open. You don't want to be doing that with one of these devices, because that's the entry into your system, isn't it?
I'll show you here in the sign-in options.
There we
There's
go.
a fingerprint scanner on this PC, so I haven't configured it on this, but you can add a fingerprint and it's all handled in the immersive control panel.
For another prize, who can give me 2 ways of shutting down Windows 8.1?
Pressing the power button for 5 seconds.
That's not shutting down. Not quite. You can't give me that. That's not shutting down.
Using the user interface.
That's how you shut down your PC?
When it crashes,
Oh, we don't be using 8.1?
and
Matt, so let's give us an answer.
Swipe in from the right, use charms, or
Yeah.
Windows PC, or you
Yeah.
can type in shutdowns and stuff.
Okay.
So
I'm looking for one that was introduced in Windows 8.1.
Right click the Windows icon.
Okay.
Yeah, start button.
Let's right click the start button.
There you go. Check it
Okay,
out.
this was not, so this was here in 8, but this is new. This is called the administrative menu. Alright?
There's a shortcut key for that. What is it?
Windows key.
Windows.
This key.
X.
Windows.
Who said that? Good man. We have to give you a prize.
It's also worth noting, we were talking about PowerShell earlier. For those of you who use PowerShell, the command prompt links there can be replaced by PowerShell.
Yeah. Now, so some of you who are PowerShell junkies will want to do that. Switch out CMD and load out. Okay. There's been quite a few other interface changes that I think somebody mentioned. I think one of you guys mentioned about booting straight to desktop. There's a lot of sort of feedback-orientated features like this. There's a lot of people coming from XP or Windows 7 go, well, it's all different, everything's in the wrong place, I don't know how to shut it down. So that thing about having the start button there and right-clicking it to get the shutdown will kind of make that transition easier. Also, here we go. We've also got options to do with how do you want Windows to kind of work for you. So there's options around don't go to the start screen when I sign in, but go to my desktop instead. Because a lot of, I use the desktop mostly. I use some start screen related apps and so on, but a small percentage of my time, 5-10% of my time. Most of my time is on the desktop. So if I want, I can have it go straight into the desktop and bypass start until I'm ready to use it again by pressing the start button.
You can bypass the start screen altogether. You can go straight to the all apps view when you press the Windows key. You can disable hot corners.
Yeah. Also, the apps, when you go to start screen normally, you get the all apps view. You get your store-based apps first, and then on the other side, then your desktop apps. But you can switch that around and have the desktop apps.
It's worth also showing you whilst we're here. We've got.
Think of another question. We've got another prize to give away. Think of a question.
No, the sorts of things I'm showing up.
Could you talk about a bit more about the new group policy features? So I think that would be probably most relevant to some people here. So for example, like one I've used the most and has been the best one is being able to lock down the start screen. So you can say well, these apps and other apps and just lock down that.
So one cool one that
in like the education sector.
Yeah, one cool one that we came up with, we researched this week was, you've heard about the store, Windows Store. That's a brand new feature in Windows 8. Okay? But you might want to stop your users from using that and installing apps on your device unless you want them to use your corporate apps. So there's two things that we can do. We can bar people from using the store, so they can't go there and download stuff, or we can force them, or we can sideload our own apps onto their device. So we can still have the same store functionality and have apps on our devices, and that you would enable that through a combination of group policy and then using PowerShell to actually add the sideloaded app. Okay. Any others?
But the one I'm speaking about here is specifically the ability to give them a designated start screen that the administrator defines. So you can have everybody's look and feel the same. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, so the start screen can be customised in a way that suits the administrator, not necessarily the user. Because normally it's all about customization and let the user, put things where they want and arrange it how they want because it's their start screen. But in some environments, you want it to be exactly the same every single time. And so that's an option you've got in GPO now to do that. So of course, there's GPO settings to do with a whole bunch of new features. Every time
so that's where you export it as a PowerShell command to export that start state, and then deploy it using a GPO.
I think what they're primarily talking about is this one here, this Facebook one that's preventing people from having that on there.
No, that was very 1990s to stop people from using social media.
We want people on Facebook. Well, maybe Facebook/WindowsUG.
You've already got one of these maps, so I can't give you another one of these.
It is sweet though.
So, have we got two versions of IE? Well, it's version.
A legacy version of IE.
So with Windows 8.1 we've got version 11, and there's a desktop, and then there's the app, then there's the Windows app version.
There's two.
So there's two interfaces.
These do some cool things as well, that they will now sync your tabs between your various Windows 8.1 devices. So you can be working in Internet Explorer either on the desktop or in the immersive, i.e. on one computer, and then you go to another computer, and in the immersive one you'll see you can share your tabs. Open the tabs that are on the
I think
PC.
what the guy's trying to allude to is the fact that a lot of companies don't update as quickly as you're updating. Like,
So
a lot of the
one of the
business
previous
systems that I access don't work on IE10.
So
Get IE10.
one of the features of 10 and 9 and 8 was this compatibility view. Okay, now it didn't work. So what's actually happened in IE 11 is that's now automatic. Okay, so that will try and work out from the web page what compatibility should be. And if it doesn't work, then you can go into the developer view and actually set it yourself. But it does work a lot better than it did when you had to manually set this.
The Scottish Widows site doesn't allow IE11 logons on compatibility. Nucleus Financial doesn't allow it. Quite a few Citrix places don't allow it.
Can you drop us an email or send it to the Facebook and say what's going on? Because we're not Microsoft, but we have very good connections inside Microsoft, and we can say, look, we had a user group meeting in London, and these 3 websites are broken in IE 11. Can you tell us how to fix them? So that's the sort of feedback you guys can leverage us.
Actually, how to uninstall IE 11 put IE 10 back, because many websites did not work.
Okay, that's a little bit strict. What I was going to show you was this in F12.
Yeah.
Now I can't guarantee the site you've mentioned because I've not used it, but traditionally there's always been issues about moving to newer versions of browsers and then sites not working properly. You've all come across that compatibility type problem before. Before you kind of start rewriting your websites or installing other browsers, take a look at F12. If you go inside of IE, press your F12 key. I've zipped right to the bottom of the bar on the left-hand side here to get emulation up. So you can actually change it and sort of get it to emulate different browsers, different user agents, to see if that will help. And you can apply these fixes through group policy as well. Yeah, check out
the browser.
Check out the agents and stuff.
So can you see, this is where you then emulate.
Does that help?
So normally a website will tell the browser what type of browser it's been built for, and IE11 will read that string. And if it sees, oh, I was made for Mozilla or I was made for IE7, it will try and work that out. If it's not working, try and force it into using IE7 or 8. And you use that developer like that.
So I wouldn't have uninstalled. I wouldn't have uninstalled. Yeah, go on. I wouldn't have uninstalled E11 and then tried to put something else on. I would have just tried the emulation mode instead.
So
would have saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to work, but try it.
Definitely.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
There's lots of combinations of settings you can use on that to try and get it to work for sites that are designed for older standards, older browsers and stuff like that.
So that's just F12 on your keyboard.
F12. Okay.
Right,
There's lots of
now,
other options.
can we configure that for certain websites
Yeah.
through GPO to deploy those specific
You
settings?
can.
Oh, that's perfect.
If you go on to, it's on the Springboard thing, isn't it? If you go to windows.com/ITPro, there's lots of IE11 articles on there about exactly that.
Okay.
Well, what's the problem about this is I upgraded to 8.1 and I got IE11.
Yes.
I went to my webmail for work, which is only 20 and I couldn't log in with this client. I had to use the right client. Because like, straight away, new Microsoft browser, I was working with Microsoft software, which was alarming.
That's feedback you need to give to the Exchange product group rather than Windows. But again, the emulation mode would have been my suggestion for you on that.
Try that.
So
Give it a whirl. You know, 9 times out of 10 that's going to work for you, if not more.
we get to the point where we've actually strategically placed a couple of nice thank you giveaways that we've put in this room for the lucky person to find. If you would like to look under your chair, feel under your chair, and see if there's a hidden prize.
Did you put what out?
Oh wow, we have a winner! Okay, what have you got there, sir?
We'll have a look under an adjacent chair as well. Bear in mind we had no idea where people were going to sit, so
well done if you've looked under somebody else's chair.
a couple of prizes hanging around underneath chairs.
Okay. Alright, sorry if you haven't found one. You know, the people at the back, who we wanted you to sit near the front. But, you know, we've got a few of these left, and what we plan to do is every time we come back, we want to give away at least one. You know, these are Windows 8 that you can upgrade to Windows 8.1. Not for resale, but, you know, obviously you can give it to a friend or to a family member if you've already got Windows 8 or 8.1.
There are 4 versions with discs as well.
There's 64-bit and 32-bit.
They're not evals, they're proper Pucker working copies. Good Christmas gift for someone, you know. We're in London, we have to say that.
So we're going to wrap up the formal part of the evening. It's been great for your feedback. What we're looking for is to come back every 2 to 3 months, and we're going to take that conversation offline after we've finished. But really, we want to say thank you very much for coming. This is your user group. We're just facilitating it. Think about how we can help next time, and give us the feedback. Go to Twitter, go to Facebook, and thanks very much.
Thank you for the presentation.
We've still got an hour of time in the room as well. So we.